Frank Scapatisi, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. Beautiful Tuesday. Weather's not bad. Can't complain.
Okay, we're going to talk about virtual real estate investing. What does that even mean? What does it entail? And how are we going to crush 2021? So virtual real estate investing, what is it, Frank?
I think the whole virtual, digital, it's kind of like a buzzword. I think it's long distance real estate investing. I think when people refer to virtual real estate investing, maybe the one difference is I think it implies that you're doing some marketing. I think most people that consider themselves virtual real estate investors probably have some marketing proficiency in their organization. Maybe they're reaching out to sellers directly via text or pay-per-click or something. So I think that's common, but it's really long distance real estate investing. I'm not sure if there's an actual doctrine that distinguishes between the two. I don't know, unless you've heard of one, but I have not.
No, gotcha. So are you familiar with that book, Long Distance Real Estate Investing? Did you ever check that out?
Yeah, I think I read that a couple of years ago when I was first getting into real estate investing. So if I don't remember certain things from the book, don't quote me. But yeah, I have read it.
Yeah, I read it back in the day. It's by David Green, who is the host of co-host of Bigger Pockets podcast. Now it's pretty good. I remember when I read that was the first time I looked at long distance real estate investing kind of as an asset, right? Because early on, being in the Army, we would invest virtually or invest long distance, and I was comfortable with that. But I always thought it was kind of a liability. And then I read that book, and I was like, maybe that this could actually be a strength. If you could get good at picking any market and being able to invest there, it could potentially be a strength, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it really depends on what your goals are, right? If your goal is to execute the BRRRR strategy and generate some passive income and scale your rental portfolio, and you have $100,000 that you can use, going to New York City is unlikely to be your best starting point, right? So for someone like me who grew up around New York and lives just outside the city right now, that book was important to me because I was like, listen, I'm doing fine, but I'm not a millionaire. I don't have $400,000 to dump into a property or to show as collateral. So, maybe I'll get started on this $100,000 house outside of Fort Hood, Texas, right? Or wherever it is that I could have chosen. So for me, it was super relevant just from a straight feasibility perspective that it just wasn't it didn't make sense for me to invest where I live outside of my primary residence.
Gotcha. So if long distance real estate investing is maybe kind of using real estate agents, and virtual real estate investing is potentially off market or direct to seller, what does that mean?
Did you just make that up? Is that the difference?
I think that's how you defined it. So I'm like, all right, let's run with it, man.
Dude, so your question is, what is the difference between the two?
Talk about working with an agent or buying properties off market.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, one can be more passive than the other. I think it's easier to get in contact with agents. Agents are always obviously looking for seller and buyer leads, so they're incentivized to work with you for sure. So if you represent yourself as a serious buyer, I think it'll be somewhat easy to get in contact with an agent that's willing to work with you, whatever city you're investing in. But I think it's much harder to find an agent that actually has deals that are good enough or have enough meat on the bone that you could successfully flip the home or BRRRR it. In competitive markets, I've rarely seen it where an agent is coming in with prices that are comparable or underneath what wholesalers are operating or offering for similar properties. And that's kind of how our company started, John. If you remember back in Feb, we were trying to work with agents to find off-market deals and get deals with good margins. And after about 3 to 4 weeks, we were like, okay, this isn't really working. None of the agents we're friends with are able to get things at price points that we like. And then we started our own direct marketing, right? So for us, it was an evolution. Okay, let's start with agents because that is the lowest hanging fruit. Okay, unsuccessful. Not a lot of agents have great deals. Let's do the work ourselves. Let's send out text messages. Eventually, we started dumping money into pay-per-click and other marketing campaigns. So I gave a long-winded answer, but for us, it was a progression. We started with agents, didn't have a great experience, did the work ourselves, make more money, right?
Gotcha. So let's dig into what that looks like. But first, you alluded to like, hey, you can't find a good deal with an agent, or potentially like maybe it's harder to find a great deal with an agent. How do you define a great deal these days?
I think obviously it depends on your strategy, but I like to have homes that hit the 70% rule. Because in the style of homes we purchase, and to clarify, 70% rule, take the ARV or the resale value of the home, times that by 70%. So take 70% of that number minus your rehab costs. So you still have to account for the rehab. On homes in our price points, like 100 grand to 250, I like that simple criteria because in that price point, I think you have the flexibility to burr those homes, or you can flip those homes if you hit that criteria successfully. And you could, if you are going to burr it, you can pull a lot of your cash out. So I feel like those homes are easy to wholesale. You can flip them or you can burr them. So there's like ultimate flexibility. So my ideal single family house is I have multiple exit options because I think, in my opinion, that protects you from losing money. I think it's hard to lose money if you could exit a deal 3 to 4 different ways. So that's what I like.
Gotcha. I like it. So when, that 70% rule kind of just goes compared to after repair value, but I think a lot of people really want cash flow. So how do you look at equity grab, appreciation, cash flow? Like, how do you look at those different metrics kind of at the same time?
Yeah, I think they all obviously matter. I don't want a negative cash flowing asset, which you could grab a lot of equity in a place like Phoenix or in some of the larger cities in the country. You can maybe get 20 grand equity at purchase and be negative cash flowing. I don't like that, right? Because to me, that feels not unlike an asset. It feels more like a liability while you're owning it. But my opinion on cash flow is it's great. But if you're making $200 per door in the single family space, it's going to take you a long time to turn that into $20,000, but you can get $20,000 of equity at purchase. So I weight equity more heavily than I do weight cash flow because it's just hard to make 20 grand in cash flow on a single family house or a portfolio of single family houses while you're paying off the mortgage. But I know you can arbitrage price enough in the single family space that you can get that equity, So I think if you're in the single family space, that's the quickest way to win. Is to grab that purchase.
I like it. And we actually have some questions. So go ahead and read Jason Tanner's. I think I can make it go across the screen too. Yeah, look at this. This is fancy. This is big time right here, baby.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
All right, so what's your opinion on going in on an investment property with multiple friends or acquaintances or just one other person? What are your thoughts, Frank?
I think it's a great way to get started, especially in the off-market space. If it's your first deal, and it's a cash deal, which is a lot of the great deals, they fall in that category. You need cash. It's sometimes more difficult to get that funded, right? If you're looking for hard money lenders, some of them will charge you more interest because you don't have experience. If you're looking to raise money privately, friends, family, or maybe other people that lend in the real estate business, it's also harder to secure a loan for a cash deal. And I think JVing is a great way to get around that, right? Maybe you do 1 or 2 JV deals when you're first starting out, and that gets you through the door, right? Then you can start securing loans on your own as you continue to graduate and get more experience. So I think JVing is a great way to enter the off-market real estate space. But I think as people get more experienced, when you get a great deal, you want to get all that meat on the bone. You want to get all the meat for yourself, right? Like you're not going to want to share every single dollar if you don't need to. So I think it's a great way to get started, but I think a lot of people eventually graduate from JV deals and start using private money to make their money.
Nice. I'll echo what you said. I think getting reps with deals is so important, right? Like get deals done however you need to get them done, even if that means you have to share a bunch of equity. One piece of advice I like to give people though is do partnerships on a deal-to-deal basis, not like, hey, let's start a real estate company and be married forever, right? Like, hey, let's go together and let's get this property. And then maybe we do another one, or maybe we just do one property together. And then the other thing is a lot of people kind of get paralyzed about like, well, how do we do an LLC or how do we do the agreement and how do we do this, that, and the other? And obviously the legal disclaimers of talk to a lawyer and talk to a CPA, but I am a big fan of like, just get it done. I've done a lot of real estate deals where it's just a handshake between me and someone I trust completely. And it got done with a handshake. So.
Yeah, I Steve Trang, actually, the Real Estate Disruptors podcast lead. He works out of Phoenix. He had a great video on TikTok yesterday. He said, he basically said, if you're focusing on LLC versus S corp all day, like you're probably not focusing on the primary objective of your business, which is make money. And he's like, he probably has done, I don't know how many deals, a couple hundred in his life. He said he's only been sued twice, right? And I don't think he said he didn't lose any money. So how risky? I mean, obviously, I'm not saying don't get an LLC or an S corp, but the primary objective when you're starting out is to get started, right? And that's to get deals and to exit them properly.
For sure. We've got another one. And because we're using a system to go live onto Facebook, it doesn't say this person's name. So sorry if we know who you are. But how do you make offers on homes outside of an agent? I guess it has to be all cash or cash offers only.
Well, not necessarily. One, I mean, for sale by owners, FSBOs is a great way to reach out to people if you're not using an agent. Obviously, if you're doing your own marketing, like we send out 100,000 text messages a month approximately, and a lot more ringless voicemails and cold calls. So that's how we get in contact with sellers. And we'll primarily offer cash, right? So let's say a home is in good condition and the ARV is $100,000. We might offer them $70,000 cash, maybe $65,000 cash. They might say no. A lot of people will say no to that offer because they know their home might be potentially worth more than that. Then in our business, we will convert our strategy and we'll say, okay, we've exhausted our options in terms of offering the seller cash. Maybe there's a more creative solution at play here. So we'll ask them questions like, well, do you have a mortgage on the home? What do you owe on the house or whatever? And if they own the home cash, that to me might think, well, maybe we can acquire this home via seller financing. And instead of involving a bank at all in this particular deal, we'll just give the owner maybe a down payment or a small down payment and just pay them a couple $100 every month. And then we will take over the deed and own that home. And then we can do whatever we want with it. We can flip the house. We can then go rent it. And then we get the benefit of having very low money into the deal. And probably because we normally take out debt on our homes via private money lender, probably have a better interest rate by acquiring something via seller financing. And there's also subject to and all this other stuff. But I guess my basic answer is we use cash as a primary in our business, but I think it's really good to have a secondary option and to use creative financing to acquire homes. I think it will definitely increase the number of deals you can close on.
I like it. So, how does someone who do you buy these houses from? Like, how, you just drive around and try to find houses that you want to buy, or like, where do these people come from?
It's all over. There's many, many, many lists. There's tons of data out there. We use PropStream to pull our real estate data. And what does that look like, right? So we might say, hey, in Q1, we're going to target Round Rock and Georgetown, Texas, which is actually likely to happen for Gray Line. And we're going to send out our marketing campaigns or send out text messages and ringless voicemails to absentee landlords. So you go into PropStream and they have access to all of the home ownership data in almost every county, I think, in the country, if not all of them. And it gives you information like, is there a mortgage on the property? Who's the mortgage with? Who's the homeowner? You can eventually figure out what their phone number is, what their email address is via skip tracing. So we'll go through that entire process and we'll target different lists. So absentee landlords could be someone with tax liens, homes that are pre-foreclosure. And those people on those lists will get our marketing campaigns. They'll get our text messages. And 99% of these people will say, I'm not interested in selling. But that's why real estate is a volume game, right? For every 1,000 or 2,000 messages we send out, we can get a contract, right? So it's a little bit of finding a needle in a haystack, I guess is what I'm saying. But you got to exert the dollars and the marketing effort to get there.
Gotcha. So you get that list and you send text messages. Is that the only thing you do, or are you doing other things as well?
We're doing more. So we do ringless voicemail. We do pay-per-click, which you've been running with. So it's funny you're asking me because that's like one of your babies in our company. So I should probably just lean on you to explain what we're doing there, how much we're spending. But yeah, we do that. We did do bandit signs in a couple cities earlier. We abandoned that because we're not really good at boots on the ground stuff, being virtual wholesalers. So we stopped. What am I missing, man? We do cold calling. I'm sorry. We just added 2 cold callers to our team, and we're trying to ramp that up because when we look at our efficiency and cost per lead, cold calling is actually, we've learned, is one of the best ways we can market to sellers, although it takes more work.
Gotcha. What advice might you have for someone who is super pumped to start real estate investing in 2021, or maybe they've done a couple deals, but they're really looking to ramp it up? Let's say they go to PropStream, they pull a list, or they use List Source, they pull a list. Would you recommend text messaging or calling, ringless voicemail? Let's say they pull a list of 1,000 people. How would you recommend they reach out to them?
I think time is obviously a factor here. If someone has a W-2 job or a full-time job, it's going to be very difficult to sit down for 3 to 4 hours during times when people will answer the phone. You don't want to call people at 11 p.m. And do cold calling. So I think if you're already busy and you got a W-2, I think text is a great way to get started. That's what we did. If we were all working full-time jobs at the time when we closed our first couple deals, and we were able to reach out to thousands of people in essentially our free time. And that's because we primarily use text via Lead Sherpa. So I would recommend text if you're light on time. But if you have tons of time and you really want to hustle and you're focused on efficiency and limiting your marketing costs, if those are the most important things to you, cold calling might make more sense.
Very nice. Got another question here from someone on Facebook. How do you minimize risk when doing out-of-market deals? Do you purchase properties sight unseen?
We have never bought a property sight unseen. We've always at least had a contractor or someone who's on the ground look at a home that we buy. There's definitely a price out there somewhere where I would buy something sight unseen, right? Like if someone's going to offer me something in a nice area at 35% ARV, then sure, we might do it, but that just hasn't happened yet. How do you minimize the risk? I can't emphasize this enough. The number one way to reduce risk especially in single family, is just pay the lowest price you possibly can, right? Like if you feel like something's risky and you're worried about margins or things being too tight, the best way to de-risk yourself is to just drop the price and start negotiating. Because if you can drop something 10 grand, the rehab can go a little bit sideways and you'll probably be okay. But I would say, especially if you're starting out, have a contractor you can trust. Like that's where the money is lost on flips. If that's what this person is trying to do, is on the contractor part. So either someone you've worked with before or a referral you've gotten from someone that you can trust is super important, because we don't even do flips in markets where we don't have that type of relationship with the contractor. We only have a relationship with, I think, about half the markets we operate in where we have a contractor we can really trust, and we do our flips there. So we basically don't do work unless we have someone on the ground that can do the work for us that we have confidence in.
Gotcha. So this time of year is always fun, right? Because we're transitioning from 2020 to 2021, right? And we know 2020 has been tough for a lot of people. A lot of people are super excited for the change, New Year's resolutions, big goals. I like it. If you think back 12 months, what's something that you've changed your mind about her? How has your thinking about real estate evolved in the last 12 months?
I think the first question you asked about cash flow, I think I really was valuing cash flow, because I listen to a lot of Bigger Pockets, and everyone, all they talk about is like, get $200 per door, just keep acquiring and building up, building and building and building. And that's great, right? But now that I've seen the effects of being able to get like $20, $30, $40, $50,000 of equity at purchase, now I'm like, nah, it's all about price, right? Like it's all about price and hopefully in the long run appreciation, because that's where I think all the IRR or the long-term benefits really are. Like we bought a home this year. One of the first wholesales we ever did. We got a home under contract for 80 grand. And we went in to do the walkthrough. We had the ARV at 120. We went in to do the walkthrough, and it was in mint condition. We bought it, listed it at 120, and it sold in like a week. And I'm like, that home wouldn't have cash flowed that well because it was only renting at like 950, and it was in Texas, and it was like a 120 appraisal value or ARV. So it's like barely cash flows. But I'm like, okay, we made $20-something thousand after closing costs. Like, dude, like let's go. Like, you know how many years it would take to make $20,000 in cash flow off that same home? 20, right? So my point is like, if we can get equity, that's what I'm all about. And then we'll acquire assets as we go over time so we can feed the retirement. But in the short term, we want to print money and you need equity to do that.
Nice. Let's talk macro a little bit. We'll do a couple more questions and then wrap it up. But where's real estate going? And I don't expect you to have a crystal ball, but from an investor perspective, right? Like, we don't know everything, but what are some of your thoughts that you'd be willing to bet on of where the market is going or different spots in the country that you're more bullish on?
I'm definitely bullish on the Southeast and Texas. We run numbers to evaluate cities, as you know, and where we should be targeting our marketing. And the Southeast and Texas, just like a lot of other investors, iBuyers included, they're targeting those areas as well. But I think the trends in population data, employment, like they all kind of lead you in that direction. So I think we're no different there. So we're big on those parts of the country. I've been hearing murmurs that in some markets, especially ones that have become really hot, that build to rent is becoming a strategy for larger real estate investors or maybe some institutional money. To me, that means that there's some uncertainty over where prices are going to go in the next couple of years. So people are building, and then they're trying to rent out and like collect a little cash flow, maybe while they figure out what the hell's going on post-COVID with all the foreclosures and stuff that didn't happen last year. Like what's going to happen, right? So I think there's uncertainty. So I think you're going to see a lot of people that were making money off of equity, like us, like maybe flipping and doing other stuff. I think you're going to see more people rent out homes that weren't maybe primarily renting before. And I think we will also see more creative finance deals in the coming years. I think about subject to, and I think about the concept of borrowing money at today's awesome interest rates a couple of years from now, if interest rates are higher, and that's a great situation, right? So I think that'll be advantageous for anyone that knows how to do subject to acquisition.
Nice. I like it. Let's do final question here. I know tomorrow in our mastermind meeting, we're going to go over a specific deal kind of from start to finish. And we don't need to go in nearly as much depth here, but I think it was a real interesting transaction. So do you mind just kind of giving us the high points of what that transaction looked like? Maybe give a little preview for what the conversation in the mastermind is going to be like tomorrow.
We're talking about Veranda Circle.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm trying to remember this correctly, but we offered, nice lady, we offered her cash. She didn't take our offer. Then one of our team members, Carla, offered her subject to financing. So I think they owed like 117 on the house or 118 on the house, but I think they told us 120. And we said, hey, the house needs a little bit of work. We can take over your loan payments. We can take over your $120,000 mortgage. And then when we sell the house, we'll also give you another $20,000 when we sell. That's called the carryback. So a $20,000 carryback. And this was our first or one of our first sub 2 deals. I remember we completely botched the negotiation. Like we messed up the terms like 3 times. And like, luckily we had good rapport with the seller. They were motivated and we were able to get it under contract. Then there was a tenant in there. So we had to wait for the tenant to move out because we actually wanted to lease option the home on the back end. We marketed the home as a rent to own and it didn't sell. Like it didn't move like at all. Like I think we just were too high at a price point for that part of the city to do a rent to own. Maybe I'm wrong, but for whatever reason, it didn't work. Then we were like, oh crap, let's see if we can just flip this house and make a profit. And luckily we were able to put under 10 grand of rehab into the home and sell it at 185. So, it's not going to be a massive deal in terms of profit, but, after all the costs that are associated, commissions, closing costs, we'll probably make like 25 grand, 26 grand on the house. But it's an interesting deal because sub 2, a lot of people want to exit by lease option or some other creative strategy. And we were like, okay, it didn't work for us. Let's just go to another strategy, But that proves out the concept that as long as you win on price, you're usually not screwed, right? You can avoid being screwed as long as you get things at the right price. And that's what happened on that particular deal.
Nice. All right. Final question. If people enjoyed that and want more, can you tell us a little bit about the mastermind?
Yeah, we got a Gray Line Mastermind. We meet once a week, every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, which Plum just alluded to. It's full of people that are primarily focused on just getting better every single week and operating in the single family off-market real estate space. We got a couple syndicators in there as well. And what do we offer? We offer coaching. So I'm available to my mastermind members whenever. I actually block off my entire calendar Thursday to offer coaching to them. We offer them right of first refusal on our deals because we're obviously wholesalers. They get access to our Google Drive, which has free content around our framework. We teach people how to find, fund, finish deals. So they have access to all of our videos, our training, aids, tips and tricks, all that stuff. And I think it's awesome, man. I think we try to offer the most value at our price point in the country, and our price point is $200 a month.
Awesome. Really appreciate it, Frank. Thanks for letting me be the interviewer this time. You did awesome. Anything you'd like to leave us with?
Nah, man. Just attack 2021, super juiced, start the new year, and everyone just hustle, get to work.
Crush them goals, baby. Crush them. All right. Thanks, Frank. Everyone have a great night. Take care.